Animation, 90s. Story, Crystal. Especially Season 3 to Cosmos.
Well, at least we can agree on the difference in animation between the two.
After listening to your talking points.
Whoa, hey.
I don't have talking points, bud. I'm not a politician. I'm not a daytime talk show host. My videos are not me just talking out of my ass about stuff so I can push some political agenda, nor are they a broadcast of my feelings or opinions only. My videos are me making a case for or against something, creating an assessment of quality using objectivity while sprinkling in some subjectivity for stylistic, entertainment, and comedic effect. I'm critiquing and criticizing in my videos. That's entirely different from having talking points. So you can have that part of this comment back, because I reject that premise. I want to be perfectly clear on this. I am not just expressing my opinion on Crystal or Classic. I am arguing a point. I am producing evidence that supports that point. I am taking account of opposing positions and objectively countering them. I am not talking exclusively about my preference. I am giving an objective assessment. That's what a critique is, in case you're not following. There's nothing wrong with complaining or sharing an opinion, but don't confuse what I'm doing in my videos for that, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm objectively comparing the two adaptations to highlight the vast difference in quality between the two. So talking points, yeah, no, that's totally inaccurate. Don't reduce my arguments and assessment into talking points. It's reductive, inaccurate, and rudely dismissive. K, thanks.
I still strongly disagree that 90s is, quote-unquote, superior to Crystal.
That's fine. You don't have to agree. Doesn't make anything I've said in the video incorrect, so I don't care. Feel how you want. Take notes, you.
Despite yes, the story does go by too fast.
You can say that again.
But Crystal's story arcs are stronger than 90s.
What do you mean by stronger, good sir? Because what I mean when I say stronger is more internal consistency, adheres to logic more closely, and utilizes cause and effect more than coincidence or contrivances to progress the story. That's what I mean when I say a particular story is stronger than another, or, as I normally put it, objectively better written. I've said this many times before and proved it many times before. Crystal is not objectively better written than Classic. My videos are filled with evidence to back that statement up. Let's see what this gentleman has for evidence of Crystal's stronger story.
I'll take Destiny to be together, to them being bickering jerks to each other.
So we're going with personal preferences as objective evidence. Alrighty then. Now, granted, I also use my personal preferences when I criticize the romance between Classic and Crystal. The difference, though, is that I also provide an objective assessment of how each romance is portrayed. Whether or not someone prefers the love at first sight cliche or the enemies to lovers cliche, it is undeniable that Crystal's portrayal of the love at first sight cliche is horrendous. They don't admit their feelings, they don't flirt, they don't attempt to get to know each other, they just stare at each other, and then Usagi walks away telling the audience her kokoro went doki doki, OMG. That fucking sucks. Why don't they act upon their love? Why don't they continue trying to talk? Why does Usagi have to tell us her heart is still pounding? Why do any of this like this? It's unnatural, it's jarring, it's glaring, and poorly written in the most obvious way possible. It's trash. It's straight up trash. This ain't it, Chief. You want a good love at first sight scene? We've got plenty to choose from. Now, the bickering jerks thing is incredibly uncharitable at best and straight up inaccurate at worst. Because first of all, did you not notice that they still bicker and argue in Crystal? Their first interactions with each other are them bickering. He calls her names, she yells at him, they act rude to each other. Like, this is a constant between the two stories. There is no dichotomy where Crystal has zero zero bickering and all the Doki Dokis, whereas Classic only has bickering and no Doki Dokis. That's not the situation, good sir, but thank you for being intentionally dishonest about it by tipping your hand. The difference, once again, is the execution of that bickering, not the very fact that they bicker. Classic has them not like each other and slowly gain a rapport that morphs into mutual respect or appreciation one way or the other. Then their feelings start to develop subconsciously, surfacing in different ways that neither of them truly noticed, until the reveal happens for both of them. And immediately the bickering stops and they act on that love they are now aware of. Whereas Crystal simply has them bicker while Usagi blushes and acts squirrely, then exposits to the audience that her heart is pounding because she's in love, but she's not gonna admit it because
plot.
Then the reveal happens and the bickering stops and they're in love and stuff, but there's no reason they don't act upon their feelings before the reveal. There's no reason why they bicker. There's no reason why anything should change between them post-reveal, unlike in Classic. All of that is taking personal preferences aside and analyzing it objectively, which is what I do in my videos in case you somehow haven't picked up on that yet. After giving this objective assessment, I add on my preferences just as icing on the cake, where I go over the merits of the enemies to lovers cliche and the demerits of the love at first sight cliche. Classic banks on the pros of its chosen cliche. Crystal suffers under the cons of its chosen cliche. So I mean, you can prefer one trope over the other, but the execution of that trope is where the rubber meets the road, not what you personally like more. And for the record, bickering and arguing in a relationship is realistic and actually a sign of a very healthy relationship. A lack of teasing and banter in a relationship is actually a bad sign. Look it up.
And it's not cute.
Speak for yourself there, pal. I find it adorable, and several million people find it cute. What, you gonna tell us we're wrong for feeling the way we do? Cause that's not a good look for your argument. Just saying.
There is nothing subtle from Classic, even on the rewatch.
Nothing subtle in Classic. I guess you just weren't paying attention then. That, or you've begun overdosing on that gas canister of copium connected to your face. I mean, I don't know what else can be said here other than you're fucking wrong, buddy. Either you're so unobservant you couldn't pick up on these details while watching the show due to underestimating it or something, or you haven't watched the show in a long time, forgot this subtle stuff, and are talking out of your ass because you want to defend Crystal, but critically, you're at a loss as to how. Or the third option, which just so happens to be my favorite, you don't actually know what the word subtle means and are therefore disagreeing with my assessment because you're confused but don't want to let my praise of Classic go unchallenged. Either way, you are so unbelievably wrong, it's hysterical. But thanks for the laughs, Chuckles.
Only arc the 90s does better than Crystal is the Black Moon arc.
Well, it does every arc better, but at least you can admit Crystal Season 2 is dog shit. So, I'll give you half a point for this one. It's a half point because you didn't give any details as to why R is better than Crystal Season 2. You seem to be lacking any evidence or proof to back up a single thing you're saying. That's not great when you're actively disagreeing with someone who does have evidence, proof, and rock-solid arguments, but it's fine. You may continue sifting terra firma until the adequate distance from ground level is achieved. Then you may take a well-deserved, highly anticipated rest.
My biggest issue with 90s is the fillers. 90s character tropes, dumb villains, making Mamoru useless, and the anime is structured like a Monster of the Week Super Sentai show.
Okay.
That doesn't mean any of these things are bad, let alone makes Classic worse than Crystal. Again, you're stating things without backing them up. How is the filler bad? How are the 90s character tropes bad? Matter of fact, what does that even mean? 90s character tropes. What the heck does that even mean? I have no idea what you could be referring to when saying this, and how it doesn't apply to the manga, which was also made in the 90s. Like, what do you think you're doing with this particular point? What makes the villains dumb? Which villains are dumb? Do you consider any of Crystal's villains dumb? Why or why not? How is Mamoru useless in Classic and not in Crystal? What's the difference between the two? And what is the problem with the Monster of the Week formula exactly? Do you see how none of these questions have answers in this comment? You just state these things as fact and plow ahead without explaining yourself. This isn't how you argue against someone else, which, let's be clear, that's what he's trying and failing to do. You're just throwing things at me because you apparently feel some type of way. The actual discussion hasn't progressed forward with any of this. But alas, the burden of communication falls upon the more intelligent party, so allow me to take the reins for a second. I cover the necessity of filler in my Why You Should Watch vid, and I detail the improvements that filler made to the original story in my 3 Classic versus Crystal vids. So if you're claiming filler is an objective issue with Classic, you're very, very, very wrong. Go watch those videos to see specifically how wrong you are. And this time, pay attention, Slappy. Thank you, next. I don't even know what 90s character tropes are, but since the manga was made at the same time as the anime, I'm gonna go ahead and point out that there will inevitably be some overlap with 90s character tropes, meaning Crystal, that more or less faithfully adapts the manga, has the same 90s character tropes as the manga, which makes this point feckless. Shocker. Moving on. The villains aren't all dumb, and in fact the villains are more intelligent in Classic than Crystal. Morga and Jadeite are way more intelligent, as I've explained in the Classic vs. Crystal vids. Nihilania is insanely more intelligent. I proved that in the Eternal Movie Rant video. The only villains that are arguably dumber than Crystal are the Daimons, the Rimless, the Phages, and the Sailor Animates. Everybody else is pretty smart compared to Crystal, which has laughably moronic antagonists because the story is laughably moronic. So if you're claiming dumb villains are an objective issue with Classic, you are quite firmly wrong. Mamoru is anything but useless in Classic. I prove this in my videos. Conversely, Crystal Mamoru is definitely useless. I showed him being useless in episode 1. He quite literally does nothing of importance at all in the entire episode. So again, you are blatantly wrong here. The Monster of the Week formula in and of itself is not bad. Just because you recognize tropes and cliches that have been done poorly before does not mean that recognizing said trope in something else means the product is poorly made. Execution is everything. I'm gonna keep saying it until it sinks in. It's how and why the trope or cliche is being used, not the mere fact that the trope or cliche exists. Please stop doing this. It's really not how media analysis is supposed to work. Okay, Pumpkin?
Between the two is the perfect Sailor Moon season.
I'm gonna assume you mean show, and I disagree. I feel that going between Crystal and Classic is a mistake, seeing as Classic is 99% right and Crystal is 99% wrong. I think that between PGSM and Classic is the perfect Sailor Moon show. But hey, this is your opinion, I'll let you have it. I disagree with it though.
Also, Crystal really pissed you off that much? Did someone is Toei screw you over? Does Naoko owe you money or something?
You know, as a matter of fact, she does. I've been trying to get in touch with her for years, but she's been screening my calls. So if you could get a message to her from me, I'd really appreciate it. And it's crazy how you know this, but Toei did actually screw me over. They made Crystal. All jokes aside, is there a problem with me being upset about this stuff? Are you trying to police how I feel about a piece of art right now? So we're gatekeeping feelings now too. That's neat. And make no mistake, that's what he's doing with this last bit. He's going, "You mad, bruh?" in an attempt to invalidate what I've said, as if it's all the rantings and ravings of an unhinged emotional wreck, when even if I was unhinged and emotional, that doesn't negate anything I've said. My points still stand, my arguments are still sound, the evidence is still on my side. And he has yet to counter a single point of mine effectively, by the way. So this is not an argument. This is a fallacy. It doesn't factor in the actual points being made or the subject matter. It's simply pointing at the opposition and going, look at how triggered he is, lol. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't mean anything. It's just a quick jab at my character, which, fine, people have been doing that left and right. You're welcome to join in on the fun. The problem is, you can't use personal insults or jabs at a person's character in place of counter arguments in a debate. Those are non sequiturs, smoke screens, irrelevant asides. They don't mean anything to the actual debate. It doesn't progress the conversation anywhere. It actively causes the discussion to stagnate. This is like if you angrily explain 2 + 2 = 4, and then someone went, "You mad, bruh?" in an effort to invalidate what you've said. What's the logic here? Because I'm mad, that suddenly means 2 + 2 is no longer 4? Because the concept of mathematics and logic itself is dependent upon the emotional state of the individuals involved? Is there some sort of reality-bending quality to my mood that suddenly makes 2 + 2 = 5 because I'm mad now? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? What do you think this accomplished? No, I'm seriously asking, what does pointing out my emotional state do for Crystal's objective quality? How does that change a single point I bring up? If I drink some calming tea and restate all of my arguments in the most milquetoast zen way possible, does that suddenly make me correct on all fronts in your eyes? This is abject nonsense, and I'm tired of people with alleged cognitive function presenting it as anything other than abject nonsense. I've said this before, but no one has the right to police how anyone feels in response to media, positive or negative. Feel whatever you want, however deeply you want, about whatever you want, including my videos. If my work pisses anyone off, I'm fine with that. If Sailor Moon Crystal fills anyone with joy unspeakable, I'm also fine with that. I don't get it personally, but whatever. Feelings don't have to make perfect sense when it comes to art. So by that same token, let people feel whatever they want when they make arguments or critiques of art. Either all feelings are valid across the board or none of them are. You can't pick and choose when someone is allowed to feel whatever emotion in terms of art. Granted, you shouldn't use your feelings as objective evidence of anything or in the place of a credible argument, but if we're strictly talking about an emotional response to art, how can anybody be wrong for how they feel about the art? I'd love to see somebody try and argue that your emotional response to a piece of art is objectively wrong. That sounds like a fucking impossible task, but I'd be fascinated by this intellectual titan giving it the good old college try regardless. Yet, what makes this particular statement so intriguing, what elevates this comment from mind-numbing stupidity to hilarious comedy gold, is this "you mad, bruh?" energy is coming from the same person who did this.
You mad, bro? Are you mad, bro? You mad, bro? Are you mad, bro?
Dude, you're seriously shading the crystal brooch when almost every other item Moon and Chibi Moon use in the series are changed to look like toys?
Yes.
You mad, bro? Are you mad, bro?
Somebody's mad.
Again, I don't care if he's pissed off at my videos or not. Feel whatever you want in response to the art you consume. But, hypocrisy, thy name is apparently Crimsonite2044 this evening. I should also add that this is the very first "you mad, bruh?" comment I've received for Sailor Moon content, so it's doubly funny that the first instance of this is from someone who can only be described as definitely mad, bruh. Ladies and gentlemen, the self-awareness has plummeted off the charts with this one. Congratulations to hypocrisy. I mean Crimsonite2044.